this is our next question. Let's see what the question says and then decide the approach if we have an option. Okay, so there's a skateboard of mass 3.2 kgs freewheeling down a smooth path inclined at an angle of 12 degrees. So we have an inclined plane and the angle is 12 degrees. The skateboard has a mass of 3.2 kgs, or you can say the weight is 32 newtons. Again, W equals mg, that's 32 newtons. Alright, so what else we know is the initial speed is 2 meters per second. And by considering the conservation of energy, so this is not giving us an option. Although we have multiple ways of solving the question, but in this case, I have no option but to use the conservation of energy. Otherwise, I could have also used the equations of motion. But currently, I have no option. I have to use the law of conservation of energy, which says the energy at every point, the total energy at every point is the same, since there are no dissipative forces. Since there is no mention of friction and the surface is also smooth, so the total energy at every point would be the same. Alright, so we know the initial speed is 2. Also, we know the final speed is 8. What we have to find is the distance it's rolled down. It's moving downwards. Maybe it's here initially, and then after some time it is coming to a new point, which is this. What we have to find is the distance it has traveled in doing so, but using the conservation of energy. Now we have 2 points, 2 instances. We have their velocities and we need to find the distance along the slope. Now I can only find the height. Using the energy forms, I can only find the height. So let's say I have to find the change in height. Once you know what the change in height is, you can convert that into the distance along the slope. We'll see how, but let's first find out the change in height using the law of conservation of energy. So what's happening is, since there is a decrease in height, there's a decrease in potential energy, and that is causing an increase in the kinetic energy. So this time there's a decrease in potential energy, which is causing an increase in the kinetic by the same amount. Since there are no dissipative forces, all the loss in potential is translated into gain in kinetic. So this is the equation I'll be using to find the change in height or the decrease in height. Let's see what that turns out to be. Equations we know are mgh. So m is 3.2, g is 10, and change in h is exactly what I have to find. Change in h, which is actually a decrease, but we're just looking for change. And this should be equal to the change in kinetic, which is half m 8 squared minus 2 squared. These two sides should be equal because once again there is no dissipative force. So it's only conversion of energy from one form to another. So potential is decreasing, which is causing the increase in kinetic with the same amount. So from here I can work out the change in height. Let's see what turns out to be. 0.5 into 3.2 into 8 square minus 2 square. This is equal to 3.2 into 10 into h. So divided by 32, you get h, which is 3. So we have the change in height. We have basically this part. But what I have to find is the s displacement. This is where I have to use the simple trigonometric ratio. Let's see how to do that. This is the final step now, by the way. So all I can do is use this triangle. It's a right angle triangle. This angle is also 12 corresponding angles. I have a right angle triangle whose height is given to me, and I have to find the hypotenuse. This is the unknown. This is the distance I have to find. So I have the angle, I have the perpendicular length, which is 3. I have to find the hypotenuse. And the ratio involving these is the sine ratio. So from here I can say sine of 12 is change in height upon the displacement along the plane. Sine 12 we can find on the calculator. Change in height we have found to be 3. Therefore s, the displacement along the plane, is 3 upon sine 12. This is the answer. Just find this value on the calculator and state your answer correct to 3SF, which is 14.429 is what I'm getting. Correct to 3SF is going to be 14.4 meters. This is the distance traveled along the plane, or this is the number of units it has rolled down the plane. So once again, I have no option but to use the law of conservation, and that I can only using mechanical energies. So there's a decrease in potential which is causing an increase in kinetic. Using this relationship, I found a change in vertical height. mgh, in the h is the vertical height. So I can find the vertical height, but the question is asking for the distance along the slope. So I have to convert that vertical height into the hypotenuse using the sine ratio. So this was again a combination of multiple concepts, but if you know all these concepts very well, this is a very simple question.